Well, hi, dear friends. This is Bob Hatton. This is the Encourager. I've got my Encourager pullover on today. So it's good that you join me, and I'm sure we're going to have a good time as we always do together. We've been looking at this thing about the sonship and about the prodigal son coming home, and I guess I know who the prodigal son is. That prodigal son could have been me, could have been you. You know, it's someone who gets fed up with the way things are, and he wants to go his own way. He's got an independent spirit. He doesn't need his dad and so on. And we can understand that maybe because there are a lot of children who have problems with the parents. And as we look through these studies, we all remember, if you could remember the quotation that I gave you from Barack Obama, the former US president, where he was complaining about the fatherlessness in the communities, that the fathers were leaving the families, and he said this will be devastating. This will damage the families. This will weaken our society. And he really put up a good argument for fathers to remain in the families and to look after the children. But we know, of course, this doesn't. A lot of fathers are leaving the families. A lot of fathers are not feeling committed to the children. I think I read in Germany, I think it's Germany, the statistic is that a third of newborn children don't have the name of the father on the birth certificate. But as we look at the story of the prodigal son, then we see that the father in that story represents God, the perfect father who has done everything right, who is he cared for his sons and he's a perfect father. So why does this guy have stress with him at the beginning of the parable in Luke chapter 15? And I think that's also the story of us, the story of man, as the Bible begins in Genesis chapter 1, where God created the heavens and the earth, and then he creates man, and man that is Adam and Eve, man and woman. They live together in the Garden of Eden, a perfect place, a perfect environment, and they have perfect fellowship with God. They can speak to him from face to face. They can ask him any question they want, and they have an excellent relationship. And then they are faced with a challenge, and the challenge comes from Satan, the enemy. Satan comes into the garden, and he tells them lies about God. He gives them fake news, and they decide that they will rather believe Satan than God. And this is the rebellion. They go in going their own ways, and we saw that this over the next generations, it got stronger and stronger, with Cain killing Abel, with the great flood, Noah, and then also the Tower of Babel. It just seems to be going greater and greater and greater, this rebellion and this spirit of independence, so that people were then living without the fathers. They're living with an orphan spirit. But of course, God the Father sent his son, his only born son, his only blood son, if you like, Jesus. And Jesus came, the perfect person, and he paid the price so that we could be adopted into God's family. And this is so good news. And this is very, very important. I've been reading yesterday and today through Romans 8 again. You know, Romans 8 is where this wonderful verse is, where it says we have not received the spirit of a servant, but we have received the spirit of sonship, so that out of our hearts we cry, Abba, Father. That's a wonderful chapter. And as we continue, we hear that the old creation is groaning. The old creation is waiting for something to happen. It's actually waiting for the revelation of the sons of God. that's us. And it seems like, we're going into a time now where the climate is where climate is playing a big role. It's in the news every day. We realize that there's something changing in the climate, but also, the earth is moving. This year we've been involved in helping people who've been suffering from earthquake in Turkey and Syria, but then also in Afghanistan. There were 15 consecutive earthquakes there, and then there was an earthquake in Morocco at the beginning of September. We've seen another earthquake in Nepal. We were involved in these, bringing help to people who are suffering. But then there's also been an earthquake in Argentina in the last few days, and it seems that there's so much stuff going on that didn't seem to be there before, and it's just telling us something is happening. The time that we're living in won't continue to go as it has been going. You can read these things from verse 18 onwards, and I'd just like to read maybe from verse 22 a few verses for you. It says, "For we know that the whole creation has been groaning together in the pains of childbirth until now. And not only the creation, but we ourselves, who have the first fruits of the Spirit, groan inwardly as we wait eagerly for adoption as sons, the redemption of our bodies." So God is going to do something. We're waiting for the redemption of our bodies, our souls, our spirits. They've been redeemed. We are sons of God. That's a spiritual thing. But something will happen. Something will change. The Bible says that Jesus will come again. You can read that, for instance, in 1 Corinthians chapter 15. And it says corruptible will put on incorruptibility, and we'll all be changed in a second, in a split second, in the twinkling of an eye. It will happen, and we'll change, and we'll put on, our bodies will put on something new. I went to visit a man yesterday who he's living his last days here on earth. He's very old, and he's very, very weak, and he'll probably maybe not live to Christmas. A little bit sad, but he's going to go to be with Jesus. And even such an old body that will die and then go into the ground, it was so weak here on earth. But there will be a resurrection, and this corruptible will put on incorruptibility. It will change. And here Paul says that, that's the hope we're waiting for. And hope that you can see is not hope. Hope is something that is invisible. Anyway, that is going to happen, and we're waiting for this. We're groaning for this. So make sure you've come home, because things will change, very, very soon. And I believe that God is showing us these things, and about it's time to come home. It's time to be reconciled with the Father in heaven. It's time to receive your adoption of children of God. And I'd just like to finish with a story that I used to like to tell to children. We did a lot of children's work previously, and one of the stories I used to tell them was about a man who lived in Thailand in Southeast Asia, and he lived in a village there, and he got quite bored with village life and nothing happening, and there doesn't seem to be any opportunities. So he told his dad he was going to leave. He was leaving home, he's leaving the family, and he's going to go and live in Bangkok, the capital city, and there he was hoped to hit the big time, make a lot of money. And the father, of course, is very disappointed and sad that his son is going. The family will miss him, but they let him go. And he goes to Bangkok, and he tries to make the big time, but he's not very successful. And so he tries on a way that you shouldn't try to. He becomes a criminal. He becomes a drug dealer, and big time. He's also involved in human trafficking and prostitution and so on. And then he gets arrested by the police. And this is a big scandal, and this is in the newspapers, and it's even in the newspapers in the village where he comes from, and everybody in the village knew about this guy who is now a big crook. He gets sentenced to a prison time in prison, and he has to go there, and he stays in prison. But he's waiting, and he's quite positive about being released, and he's got some ideas how to hit the crime scene, in a bigger way than ever before. And he's got some big ideas with violence and all kinds of stuff. But when he gets out of prison, he doesn't seem to be able to, put his feet on the ground. It's very difficult. Everything has changed. There's no room for him. He can't find a way in. And he thinks the only thing he can do is try to go back home. But will his father receive him after all that's happened? So he decides to write his father a letter, and he says, "Dad, I'll be coming home on next Thursday evening. I'll be going on the train. I'll come to the train station, and there's this tree just before we get to the train station. There's a big tree. If you put a white flag, a piece of white material, hang it in the tree, and then I know that I can get out of the train and that you'll receive me. But if there's no material hanging in the tree, I know that I've disappointed you and hurt you so much that I'm not welcome anymore with you." So he sent the letter off, and then the Thursday came, and he got on the train, and he travelled in the direction of his home village. And as they're on the way, he started to talk to one of the people who were traveling with him, his companion there. And he explains to him, why he's nervous and why he's worried that maybe the father won't receive him. And so the traveller is very sympathetic with him and tries to encourage him. But they're getting closer to the village, and the son is getting very, very nervous. And then he says, "Would you do one thing for me, please? Could you open the window and look out to the window and tell me when you see the tree, and tell me what's hanging on the tree?" And so the traveller says, I'll certainly do that. I'll certainly help you. So he stands up and opens the window and looks outside. And he says, "Yeah, I can see in the distance. I can see a big tree. And I think behind that there's a railway station. So that might be the tree you are thinking of." And so a couple of minutes go by, and they're getting nearer and closer to the railway station. He says, "Yeah, that's definitely a railway station behind there. And I think our next stop is where you come from." Yeah, that's right. "Can you see the tree now?" Yes, sir. "I can see the tree, quite clearly." He says, "Is there a piece of material hanging the tree, a flag, a towel, or something white? Is there anything hanging there? Can you see the piece of material?" And he says, "No, sir, I can't see any material hanging there." Oh, the son said, I knew that I shouldn't have put my hope too high, because I've done so many bad things. I can't really blame my dad for not wanting anything to do with me. I've ruined his reputation, and I can't blame him." But the traveller says, "Wait a minute, there's not a piece of material hanging the tree. The whole tree is covered with white paper." And he knew that was the father who was saying, "You're not only welcome, you are most welcome with me." And as the train came in the station, there's a little guy. The father seemed to have shrunk over the years, and he was trying to jump up and down and try to look in each of the compartments on the train to see if he could see his son. And as the traveller looked out of the window, he saw the son go over to this old man, and they put their arms around one another and were reconciled. Yeah, I love that story. That's a good picture of the prodigal son again. Friends, I can't tell you too often, God is waiting for you to come home. The Father is waiting for you to come home. And as we read before, it's not just about giving you goosebumps. It's not just about giving you a good feeling. It's about the cosmic plan that God has for this world. He's looking for sons and daughters, because the times, they are a-changing. God bless you. Have a real good day, and I'll see you again. Your encourager, your Bob Hatton.